Title: Echoes of Two Worlds. Isaac Adeyemi, a young anthropologist from Nigeria, stared out of the plane's window as it descended into the lush, mountainous regions of northern Thailand. His heart pounded with excitement and trepidation. It was his first time stepping so far out of his world, a world shaped by Yoruba traditions, rich with the myths of orishas and ancient spiritual beliefs. He had grown up in a family that revered the gods, the most prominent being Ogun, the god of iron and war, and Osun, the goddess of rivers and fertility. These deities had shaped his understanding of the world and his place in it. But today, he was on a quest not only to learn, but to bring something valuable back to his family, a discovery that would help lift them from the financial struggles they had endured for years. His destination was a small village nestled in the green hills of Thailand, home to the Karen people, who, though primarily Buddhist, still held animistic beliefs that connected them deeply to the land. Isaac had read about their reverence for spirits that resided in rivers, forests, and mountains, beliefs that echoed the spiritual connections he had grown up with in Nigeria. But what intrigued him most was their use of rare medicinal plants that had never been commercialized. Isaac had dreams of discovering these plants and bringing their potential to the world, but he also knew that doing so could disrupt the delicate balance of the village's traditional way of life. The village was a world unto itself. As Isaac walked through the village gates, he was greeted by a sea of bright prayer flags fluttering in the breeze, the smell of incense wafting from the Buddhist temple at the center of the village. Somchai, the village elder, met him with a formal nod, his weathered face etched with wisdom. Behind him stood Leela, his granddaughter, whose almond-shaped eyes reflected curiosity as she studied the foreigner before her. Isaac noticed her immediately, her quiet grace, her delicate movements as she helped her grandfather. She wore a simple traditional dress, her long black hair braided neatly down her back. "Welcome to our home," Somchai said, his voice measured. "You are far from your world now, but I hope you find peace here." Isaac nodded, feeling the weight of the elder's words. This was a place where time moved slowly, where every action had meaning. Yet he felt out of place. His modern clothing and Yoruba beads around his neck stood in stark contrast to the Karen people's traditional attire. "Thank you, Elder," Isaac replied, his voice steady. "I come with respect and an open heart." Over the next few days, Isaac found himself drawn into the rhythms of the village. He watched as monks in saffron robes led villagers in prayer, their chants echoing through the valley like a haunting melody. He learned from Lila about the village's rituals and beliefs, how they honored the spirits of their ancestors and believed in the Fi, spirits who protected the land and its people. These spirits, much like the orishas of his homeland, governed natural forces. "There's a sacred river near here," Leela explained one day as they walked through the rice paddies. "We believe the spirits live in its waters. Just like your Orisha Osun, right?" Isaac was taken aback by how easily Lila understood his world. "Yes," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. "Osun protects the rivers, just as your spirits do. It's amazing how similar our beliefs are, even though we come from such different places." As the days passed, Isaac and Lila grew closer, their conversations delving into the spiritual, the philosophical, and eventually, the personal. Lila spoke of her dreams to see the world beyond the mountains, of her fascination with the city life she had only glimpsed on rare visits. Isaac, in turn, shared stories of his childhood in Nigeria, of sitting under the baobab tree with his grandmother, listening to tales of Shango, the god of thunder, and of participating in Yoruba ceremonies that honored the ancestors. But not everyone in the village welcomed Isaac's presence. Sorn, a young monk and Lila's childhood friend, watched Isaac with increasing suspicion. Sorn had long held unspoken feelings for Leela, feelings that conflicted with his path as a monk. He had dedicated his life to Buddhist teachings, to discipline, and to the pursuit of spiritual purity. But his jealousy toward Isaac was undeniable. One evening, as the village prepared for the Kathina ceremony, a sacred event where robes and offerings were given to the monks as acts of merit, Chrysorn confronted Isaac in the temple courtyard. "You do not belong here," Chrysorn said, his voice low yet sharp. "Our ways are different from yours. You will never understand." Isaac stood his ground, though he could feel the tension building. "I don't seek to change your ways," he said calmly. "I'm here to learn. Just like you, I honor my ancestors, and I respect the spirits of the land." Chrysorn's eyes darkened. "Do you? Or are you just here to take something valuable from us?" Isaac's heart pounded. He had discovered a grove of rare medicinal plants deep in the forest, plants that had the potential to revolutionize medicine in the outside world. He had not told anyone yet, not even Lila, but Chrysorn's words hit too close to the truth. Isaac had come with a dual purpose, and now he was torn. Should he reveal the discovery and bring wealth to his family in Nigeria, or should he protect the village's sacred knowledge? In the days leading up to the ceremony, Isaac wrestled with his conscience. Leela, sensing his internal struggle, grew distant. She, too, was caught in a web of conflicting emotions: her growing love for Isaac, her duty to her family and village, and the silent presence of Chrysorn, who watched her every move. The night of the Kathina ceremony arrived, and the village gathered at the temple. The air was thick with incense, and the rhythmic chants of the monks filled the night sky. Isaac, dressed in the traditional garb given to him by Samchai, felt the weight of his decisions pressed down on him. He could see Lila, standing among the women of the village, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. As the ceremony reached its climax, Isaac stepped forward. The villagers watched in silence as he approached the altar. In his hand, he held his Yoruba beads, a symbol of his heritage and the beliefs that had shaped him. He knelt before the altar, his heart pounding in his chest. "I come from a land far from here," Isaac began, his voice trembling slightly. "I was taught to honor the Orishas, the gods of my people, and to respect the spirits of the land. I came here with a purpose, but I realize now that my journey is not just about discovery, but about understanding. The spirits that protect your land are not so different from those that guide mine, and I will not betray their trust, or yours." Isaac placed his beads on the altar, a gesture of unity between two worlds. The village elder, Samchai, stepped forward, his eyes filled with approval. "You have shown great respect," Samchai said, his voice filled with warmth. "You are no longer an outsider. You are one of us." Lila, standing nearby, felt tears well up in her eyes. She knew then that Isaac's decision to honor the village's ways had solidified her love for him. They had come from different worlds, different cultures, but their connection had transcended all boundaries. Even Chrysorn, though still conflicted, bowed his head in recognition of Isaac's sincerity. He knew, deep down, that Lila's heart belonged to Isaac, and though it pained him, he accepted his path as a monk and the spiritual peace it brought. Later that night, under the light of the full moon, Isaac and Lila walked together by the sacred river. The sound of the water was soothing, and the stars above seemed to glow brighter than ever. Isaac took Lila's hand, feeling the warmth of her touch. "I was afraid I'd lost you," Lila said softly. "You never lost me," Isaac replied, his voice filled with emotion. "Our worlds may be different, but we are the same, in all the ways that matter." As they stood by the river, the spirits of the land, the Orishas, and the Buddha seemed to watch over them. In that moment, Isaac knew that he had found not only love, but a deeper understanding of how different cultures could blend, how respect for tradition could bridge even the widest of divides. Together, Isaac and Lila looked to the future, knowing that their love had created something new, something that honored the past, yet embraced the endless possibilities of tomorrow.